Hey, what's up? My name is Abdur, and I'm gonna be an MSc student at the University of Toronto starting this fall. Today, I'm joined here by Danish, a high school senior of mine who is currently pursuing his PhD at the University of Toronto, and he's also working as a consultant data scientist for Ernst Young. He had completed his bachelor's and master's from the University of Manchester. Hey, Danish, thank you very much for being here with us.
Hey Abdur, my pleasure.
So your background is so diverse that I can't really cover it in a single video. So I thought, in this video we'll just stick to the bachelor's part, your bachelor's degree, and in the upcoming videos we shall cover your higher studies.
Sure, absolutely. Whatever you
Okay.
think is fit. Yeah.
So you completed your bachelor's in mechanical engineering at the University of Manchester. So can you talk about your experiences there?
Sure. I mean, where do I start from? Going to the University of Manchester was one of the better decisions I feel that I took.
Hmm.
It has been a beautiful experience and a wonderful journey. I don't really have many qualms, unlike other students who may or may not have landed with jobs after their bachelor's or their master's, but I just see that journey holistically for its face value. And um, there was a lot of personal growth, there was a lot of professional growth involved in there. To be honest with you, going abroad for my studies after 12th was not something that I was constantly pursuing or constantly thinking about.
Hmm.
It just so happened by chance, and that's a funny story in itself. It just so happened that I ended up at the University of Manchester. But I'd heard about the Manchester, I mean, the city of Manchester.
Hmm.
I'd heard about the place. I've been a soccer fan growing up, so Manchester
Yeah, I
United
see
were
where
the
that's
win.
coming from. Yeah.
Uh, exactly, and cricket as well. That's been a major part in my life. It continues to be a major part in my life. So Manchester was definitely a place which I was delighted to see as an available opportunity. It's very difficult to pick uh, one particular instance. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to tell you about the newly found independence that an 18-year-old kid would get in a far off country like this, or should I pick up all those instances of watching the football matches live in different parts of the UK,
I see.
or was it following the Indian cricket team for the Champions Trophy in
I see.
2013 and 2017? So, um, I mean, as I said earlier, it's been a professional and personally fulfilling journey, and academically too. It's a place which has been associated with a lot of prestige, with a lot of tradition, with a lot of research excellence. Um, I'm sure you must have heard that atom was split for the very first time at the University of Manchester, and I saw that room where Ernest Rutherford carried out that
Oh,
experiment. Uh, Alan
nice.
Turing is associated with University of Manchester, the man who laid the foundation of modern day computers and who even won the Second World War for the Allies by cracking the Enigma, the
Enigma code.
German
Yeah, yeah.
coding machine.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a wonderful story and stuff. So there's so much prestige
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. That history
associated with
part,
the
right?
university.
Especially. Yeah,
I know it
yeah.
gets me
I
every time.
see.
It gets me every time when
I
you look
see.
into it and when you read it. So yeah, I mean that's just Manchester in a
Yeah,
nutshell.
sounds cool actually. What were some of the other universities that you applied to after high school?
The majority of the universities that I had applied for were in India.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't really apply to a lot of universities abroad. A couple, well, there was definitely the University of Manchester, and then I was also eyeing Melbourne in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only because these were the two places that we knew someone in outside Saudi and India.
Uh,
Um, but the major chunk of the acceptances that I got were in the UK, in Australia. There was one in Dubai as well. I'm sure you must have heard of BITS Pilani.
yeah, yeah,
And then there were a
yeah,
bunch of
yeah.
other universities and colleges in India that I was eyeing. I had written SAT as well. So based on those scores, I can't remember. Was it? I think it was Allahabad, MNNIT, that I was getting ECE in, Electronics and Communication Engineering.
I see.
Don't ask me how I laid down my choices because all of them were one and the same for me. I wasn't really concerned, so I just
Yeah,
applied to the places that my friends were applying to. I doubt that you will get much of a profound insight into that bit.
Yeah.
But yes, I'd written SAT. I'd given entrances in Jamia, DTU,
Mm-hmm.
Aligarh Muslim University was somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place where most of my family has graduated from. So AMU
Yeah,
had to
yes.
be on the list as well.
Can you name some of the universities there, like that you applied, like just for an idea?
University of Manchester was actually the only university that I had applied to. I mean, I can go into a bit of a detail if you allow me the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure,
How I
sure.
ended up at the
Yeah, yeah.
University of
Sure, sure. Feel
Manchester.
free.
Do you remember? Are you or are you too young to remember Stick Sports or StickCricket.com? Is
Uh,
that
uh,
something you're familiar with?
no, I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
Stick Cricket.
Okay, I'm not
Stick
actually an
Cricket is an
avid
online
follower of
gaming website.
cricket, so
No, that's okay. That's all right. I mean, it's like PUBG for my generation. Everybody was
okay,
into Stick Sports. The
okay.
reason I'm referring to that is every time I used to go onto that website, there used to be an advertisement that used to pop up, and there used to be a student in Sermon and having a degree in her hands, and the label used to say, "Follow your dreams with the University of Manchester."
Uh,
I think I got pretty annoyed looking at that every now and then, and it was one fine day that I decided, okay, you know what? Let's just look into it.
yeah,
What the hell? Let's just apply
yeah,
for it. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
let's just see what the university is about. Obviously, back in the day, I didn't know what University of Manchester really is. I didn't know that it was consistently ranked in top 30 or
Mm-hmm.
40 institutes around the world.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't really know how good the courses there were. I had just filled out the UCAS application, which is the online application portal that anybody looking to apply to the UK fills out.
Okay.
It's the Universal Candidate Acceptance System or something.
Uh,
It's basically the website where you apply to any university in the United Kingdom, and you can fill up to four, probably five choices. I just had one, and that was the
oh,
University of Manchester. That's how ill-informed I
yeah.
was going
I
in.
see.
But yeah, that's how it happened. I applied, I forgot, and I was all set to go to India. And one fine day, I just received the conditional acceptance,
Ah,
saying that you know
nice.
what, if you get your results and if you meet the requirements, this is what you have to do. So
That's an
I was
interesting
actually
story,
flabbergasted. I
actually.
didn't
You
know
know,
what to do.
the like that advertisement was worth it. I would say it was worth
It was
looking at the
destiny. It was
advertisement. Yeah.
destiny. I mean, it's when I tell that to people now, people don't really believe it. But this is what happened. I mean, I was just fed up of a pop-up advertisement, and I eventually decided to click on that ad. Someone in the marketing department of that website was doing a good job. So
Ah,
I don't know. Yeah, well, so that's the story in a nutshell. How I ended up there. And there was University of Melbourne that I told you about.
hmm,
Um, and within India, it was AMU, JMI, Jamia Millia Islamia,
hmm.
MNNIT, pretty much all the options that a SAT score would give you.
Yeah,
DTU happens to be on that list as well,
yeah.
or maybe not. Um, and I think I had an acceptance from Manipal as well.
Ah,
Although that was another one of those half-hearted applications. I wasn't
hmm.
really pursuing it as such.
I
But
see, I
yeah,
see. So I can say that you were kind of planning towards India, and it's just that out of nowhere you somewhat like filled the Manchester form, and
it just
like
so happened. Yeah, it
luckily,
just
yeah, it just came up. So
absolutely.
that's nice. That's nice. That's an interesting
Absolutely.
story,
I mean,
actually.
a lot of people, yeah, a lot of people had their eyebrows raised when my parents finally broke the news to them that you know what, we're not heading
Oh,
to India, he's heading
oh,
to uh, UK.
UK. Yeah, that's
How did
amazing.
that happen? Where
Yeah,
did that come from? So yeah, I know.
I see. I see. Interesting. Interesting. Very nice. So, what is the application process like for pursuing bachelors in the UK?
It's actually relatively straightforward. It's nothing like one would expect someone applying for any of the degrees in the US or anywhere around the world.
Hmm.
Um, in a simple two-step process, you send in the application and you are selected based on your results in your class 12 board
Hmm.
exams
Hmm.
for students coming from an Indian curriculum or an ICSE exam for that matter, and the scores that you and the benchmark that they've set for the language testing requirements like
Hmm.
IELTS, TOEFL.
Hmm.
It's really as simple as that. There are no other tests like SATs or GREs or GMATs required, not even
I
for
see.
the postgraduate studies. So
Oh,
it's
oh,
plain and simple.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
didn't
That's
have to give
that's
any of
great to
those.
hear.
I didn't have to give any of those.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So once you've filled out your application on the UCAS system, and hopefully if everything goes well after you've uploaded all the documents, they come back to you with a minimum percentage that they require of you in specific subjects. If you're going for engineering, maths, physics, chemistry is what they will be stating their requirement for. Isn't but that doesn't mean that you can flunk in English and Hindi. You obviously need a good overall score as well.
Yeah.
Uh, something something interesting that I'd like to point out here is it's completely plausible for two people from the same school applying at the same time to the same university to have different conditions for their acceptances.
Oh.
So if the two of us are in the same batch
Mm.
applying for the University of Manchester, it's completely possible that I might be set a requirement of 85%. You
Uh,
may be set a requirement of 87 or 90%.
okay. Okay.
So the way this works is the admissions department for every university, in fact, for every stream, is fairly independent. The admissions coordinator goes through your statement of intent or statement of purpose, the essay
Mm.
that you have
Mm.
to submit. They go through your conditional grades, that is your performance up until that point. They even have a very good idea of what CBSE or ICSE curriculums are like. So they do know, they actually know what's in your syllabus. And based on that, based on having assessed your overall profile and your, I don't know, personality traits, I should be saying, um, they set you a score. They set you a requirement. It's as unusual as it may. I mean, I won't be surprised if you perhaps find this unusual. I found it unusual too, but
Yeah, it's
that's just
kind of
what it is.
unusual. Yeah.
And it's not even consistent throughout the years. I mean, I remember back in my day it was 85%. The batch following me had a 90% aggregate, and then the same percentage requirement went back to 85% the next year. So it's a little unusual. You are really at the whims and fancies of the people assessing your application, but it's not as quantitative or as objective as you may
Mm.
find in the US.
I see. I see. So, just one slight
Right.
question in this. So, when they give you the cutoff,
Mhm.
the cutoff score in terms of percentage, so is it like I'm supposed to cross it? Like, I mean, only if I cross it, I'll be accepted, and if I don't cross it, then I will be rejected. Is it something like that?
So you get a conditional offer.
Oh,
If
okay.
everything goes well,
Mm.
you get a conditional offer, as in you have an acceptance provided that you get XYZ scores in XYZ
Oh,
subjects
in the
in your
final
final
exam.
exam.
Ah, I see. I see.
So exactly. So
Mm.
what happens is you get your conditional requirements sometime by the end of March/April,
Mm.
or maybe a little later than that, because the terms start in September. So I think I got mine somewhere in May, right? I got a conditional requirement, or somewhere before that in April. It was just a couple of weeks or perhaps a month before the board exam results were officially supposed to be announced. And the offer letter says that your acceptance to the University of Manchester is conditional upon the following requirements, and IELTS is one of them. Your 12th board exams is one of them, and that's about it.
Okay. Okay. So, did you give IELTS before the application process or after the application process? Like once you got the conditional offer?
I think I think somewhere around the time when I got the conditional offer. I'm
Ah,
not sure because it's been 10 years, but
I see.
yeah, it was somewhere around that time itself. It's always better. It's always better. I would say. I mean, anybody who approaches me and asks me about when is a good time to apply, I always say, look, your IELTS score are going to be valid for 2 years.
Mm.
So it's always better to prepare for them somewhere around the time you're about to get done for your course.
Mm.
So give your IELTS exam by Aprilish, and that way you're kind of set. You're kind of set for most of the universities that you would be applying.
Okay. Did you get any external help when applying for universities abroad?
Uh, well, I I mean you've heard the story that proves how meticulously I was planning to get to the University of Manchester. Just
Yeah.
kidding. I mean, it happened by chance, but I did used to discuss it with a couple of my friends, a couple of my seniors who back in the day were pursuing masters or PhDs in the US and had considered the UK.
Mhm.
And I just ran it by a couple of people. I said, hey, you know what? I have this offer. It's going to be a little more expensive than my tuition that I would have paid in Dubai or India,
Mhm.
but I just want to know if it's going to be worth it. And before that, I mean, the application obviously involves a lot of essay writing.
Mhm.
The statement of purpose is really how you choose to present yourself to your admissions coordinator, right? So
Yeah.
I had taken a couple of samples from people who had applied to the US just to
Mhm.
get an idea of how to structure it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there are there are slight differences in the format that a statement of purpose is written for a US application as compared to the one in the UK because the one in the UK is expected to be a lot more personalized. They don't really expect to see the wealth of knowledge that you may possess, but
Mhm.
um, how exactly that has shaped you or molded you into the kind
Mhm.
of person you are. You see, I
Yeah.
mean, a
Yeah. Yeah.
statement of purpose for a US university would be slightly different from the one
Yeah.
that you send in the UK. So there were a couple of people that I contacted, and I had a couple of family friends who were always at my disposal, thankfully, to give me advice at any hour. I had a few extended family members in the UK as well, who always had pretty good things to say about Manchester as a city and how you could, how you're supposed to be living by yourself because
Yeah.
there's no mess system in most of the universities abroad. You are surviving by yourself. You're cooking by yourself. You're living by
Yeah.
yourself. Uh, so that was something which I needed a lot of homeschooling and a lot of preparation in. But yeah, that's about the external help that I had.
So, can you talk about some of the things that you did back in high school in order to, make your profile stand out, be exceptional?
I well, I would say I was a hardworking student, so I was obviously worried about my grades
Uh,
as much as anyone else would be, but under no circumstances was I an academic achiever. Um, I used to get by, yes, but something that I did develop early on is being able to put myself out there, being able to put my thoughts into words and then um, try and communicate. So more often than not, there are some universities in the UK who have an interview stage. You still have a chance to get rejected even after having met the conditional requirements because
uh,
places like Cambridge and Oxford and Imperial they conduct some interviews as well in some of the departments.
mm,
Um, so I mean, if that were ever to happen in the University of Manchester, I guess I would have been fine with it because you know I I was kind of an extrovert, but that's about it. I mean, if your question has more to do with how did I manage my time between my modules and studies and everything, it was fairly obvious. It's fairly regular. I didn't have to prepare for any SATs that were supposed to be the requirement for the University of Manchester,
uh,
so I was good there. Um, but that doesn't mean that I didn't appear for SATs. I had to secure my other options as well. I had to be scoring well in SATs to get a good admit from one of the NITs that I had
mm,
applied for. I even sat for AIEEE, and um, I think there was an IIT exam in Riyadh as well, from what I
yeah.
can remember. But AIEEE, well, we didn't have a joint exam back then, so AIEEE had to be given separately as compared to an IIT. But yeah, I mean that's about it. I mean, I lived my school life to the fullest. Honestly, I
Okay.
was in extracurricular activities. I was in debates. I played badminton for many years, and um, yeah, the years have just flown by.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing that you would expect out of me. Nothing extraordinary that you would expect out of
I find your profile really like dynamic in a way that you're not just about academics, like not completely about academics, but you had focus on debate, all kinds of things like badminton, debate. So these things definitely add up to a more holistic profile, I would say, rather than just purely academics.
me. Perhaps, I guess. I mean, to be honest with you, there's a bit of a luck involved as well. Fortune plays its part as well, and uh, You just have to be sending the right application to the right place at the right time.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes there are spots that open up, just like any other uh, job that you apply for. This is actually no different.
Mm-hmm.
Universities actually do take into account a lot of extracurricular activities that you do, and they try and draw a profile for every student based on how they've been, how active they've been. It's not just grades, which is something very, very different from how students get accepted in colleges in India, where the competition is really fierce.
Yeah, yeah.
Academic performance is obviously the only criteria to get admitted. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong, I could be right, but this is just my experience.
Yeah, actually, last time, I mean, in the previous podcast that I had with Majid, so even he was
Hmm.
saying that it was like he also applied to India just like you and me, but he was like what he said was that he had certain other things on his profile, like he had applied for, I mean, he had competed in a quiz competition, he had gone
Right.
for a cluster meet, and also so there were certain things on his profile which were not at all being counted towards his admission when it came to just
Hmm.
getting admitted into India. So it was
Right.
like he wanted them to have an impact on his application, which was one of the biggest reasons why he applied outside India. So can you briefly talk about your tuition fee and cost of living that you had to face back then in UK during your undergrad, of course?
Right. So in the undergrad, I think the tuition fee for a year. Well, okay, but then again, the tuition for every university differs, and it's
Hmm.
usually the same throughout your time as a student. So for me, during the undergrad, it was about 16,500 pounds
Okay.
a year,
Hmm.
and the living expenses were again variable. It really depends on how often you eat outside and how often do you cook.
Hmm.
I'm someone who is more of the latter. I actually used to enjoy cooking for myself,
I
so
see.
I ended up saving a lot of money that way. I mean, I don't think I would have spent more than 20 or 30 pounds a week on groceries. That was
Okay.
about it. But yeah, the living expenses are don't just mean grocery, it means the kind of place you're living in. So my accommodation was, I think it was a modest 130 pounds a week. They have the weekly structure there.
Okay.
So that's how you count it. I mean, it's
Hmm.
around 130 to 140. This is where you know that you're living in a decent, fairly decent accommodation. The University of Manchester, on the other hand, used to guarantee the accommodation for the first year students, no matter where they came from, no matter what stream they picked.
Okay.
This was, of course, one of the university dorms, which I did not opt for because I think I would have wanted a slightly more private setting for myself.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, that's just me. It really depends on what you want.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've given you a rough figure of
Yeah, 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 definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're looking at.
yeah, exactly. That's really helpful.
The UK doesn't really have a lot of full ride scholarships, right? Unlike the US, unlike Canada.
Okay.
Every institution judges its scholarly students based on their own exams. For the US, it's SAT. I'm not sure for Canada. But if you're an academic achiever, if you wish to apply for a scholarship, you usually come through that system. You fall into the pool of their own domestic applicants, you compete against them, and then you get this course that you need for getting a scholarship. The UK doesn't really have a lot of scholarships. At least I'm of that belief because I tried looking up for it,
Okay.
and I couldn't really find too many. I mean, they're very, very few, and it's only if you score, I guess, a 97 or a 98 percentile in your 12 boards is when they would perhaps make that offer to you. But the bare minimum conditions required for an admission is what I've told you about. I can speak for personal experience. I mean, I was
Mm.
trying for a PhD scholarship within the University of Manchester itself, and even though I had the required grades, I had the papers published in my MSc. I was told that to get a full ride at the University of Manchester, you should be able to outperform all the master's student in every different department. It doesn't have to be the mechanical engineering alone. You have to outperform all of them in mechanical, aerospace, civil, computer science to
Mm.
be able to uh, ge- get a guaranteed financial aid.
Oh,
which, as we can imagine, is not always the case. So,
yeah, obviously.
hence,
Yeah.
most of the students either end up paying the tuition by themselves or they
Mm,
get sponsored by their home country.
mm,
Uh, so, yeah, the latter has been mostly the case.
I see. How hard is it to get a job after graduation in the UK?
The answer to that question a couple of years ago would have been very different. Today, I see there are signs of welcome changes with the post study work visa being reintroduced. And I say reintroduced because there was a post study work visa before 2012.
Okay.
2012 is when I went to the UK, which is the year when they started to discontinue that. So, speak about how lucky I was
Yeah.
to go to the UK during that time. But for the duration of those 6 years or 7 years, there just wasn't any post study work visa, and that was a major challenge for any international student because one of the things that the companies or the employers look at before giving you an offer is how much money they will have to spend on you to sponsor you.
Mm,
And then with a cost benefit analysis, they try and assess whether it will be cheaper for them to hire a home student or a home graduate as against you.
mm,
I mean, it really comes down to how much your company can afford. If you're working for some of the bigger names in the industry, if you're working for, I don't know, if I were looking to work for EY in the UK back in the day after I graduated, I guess sponsorship would not have been an issue because
mm,
these are big firms.
yeah.
They can pay, they can
Yeah.
sponsor you. Even all they have to make sure is you're good at what they want you to do, and it doesn't really. It's quite immaterial whether you're a home graduate or not. However, the chunk of the companies that used to offer jobs in the mechanical engineering sector were either short and medium time enterprises or
Mm,
they were not as big. They didn't have as huge dividends or as huge turnovers as the big four consulting firms. Um, so yeah, more often than not, it really boils down to this one simple question: how much money would the company be investing in you in order to just sponsor you, for you to be able to work for them?
mm,
And yes, I have known students who've had their offers revoked once the company realized that they're internationals. They don't have a status beyond the study permit
oh,
in the UK.
okay.
I mean, as disheartening as that is, but this is what the job situation used to be like. Now, with the post-study visa, and again, I have to re-educate myself on this because I don't know what the length of the post-study work permit
Work
is.
permit
I
is,
don't know
yeah.
how long it's going to be valid for. Is it the same length as your degree, like the way it is in Canada? If that's the case, truly, it's a blessing.
Mm,
But I think it's a lot easier for students to hope for a good, well-paying job now after having graduated from one of the universities there.
mm,
And I guess more and more students will be flying to the UK now because this one particular change.
I see. Makes sense. So, anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Okay, I mean, no matter what kind of a background you're coming from, no matter what kind of a curriculum you're graduating from in high school,
Mm,
um, one thing that stood out for me while studying in the UK was how much I was able to learn about myself, how much I was able to learn about my own limits.
I
Because
see.
when you're studying in India, you're studying, you're surviving. I mean, um, you're surviving within the system, as in you don't have to worry about a lot of other things besides your assignments, your
Mm,
academics, and your job. And if there is a master's in the scene, then how are you supposed to prepare for that? But when you're living in a country like the UK, when you're an international student, all but 17 or 18 years of age, you really have to understand how to manage your time between doing your coursework
mm,
and cooking, between submitting an assignment and tidying up your room.
I see.
Um, so it really molds you in a manner which is very different from what most of the places in India won't offer you.
Mm,
That is something which I thought was very different. And it's a multicultural country. I mean, I met people. I have friends from pretty much. all over the world, from even Latin America, and and from even parts of Asia which I hadn't even known about before going to the UK.
I see.
So there's so many different students that you come across. There's so many different people that you come across that I would actually go as far as saying that um, a major part of me was developed and born in Manchester, and it plays a very important role in whatever I'm doing today. If I'm able to speak to people in a language that they understand, Manchester will have a very important part in that. But just a general tip. Grades may come and go, but when you're deciding on the universities, you really need to think about how much you can learn and how you can best make use of the opportunities that this place will give you. You
Mm-hmm.
could be an MIT graduate, you could be a Harvard graduate, but if you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't know what you want to be in the next 5 years, um, you probably wouldn't end up anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the degrees have their brand values, but what really is a deciding factor is how ambitious you are and how hungry you are to learn and to do something, to be able to contribute. That is something which will pave the way forward. You know, getting a
Yeah.
degree is fine. I mean, anybody who has the bucks in their pocket can actually buy a degree these days, but
Yeah.
it's not going to help you when you're looking to move on to the next phase of your life. You have to compete with jobs, you have to compete with a master's, you have to compete with getting a PhD, and then you have 10 different people at every stage to question you, to
Mm-hmm.
critically evaluate your performance. And then money wouldn't help you there, right? It all really comes down to how much you've learned and
Yeah. Yeah.
how much you've grown as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just something that I keep telling all the students who are just coming out of school. This is something that I didn't know, but I was lucky enough to develop.
I see. I yeah, I'd
I thought,
actually read about this. I had read this quote, okay, in a book. Okay, the book's name is 4 Hour Work Week. I'm actually consuming a lot of self improvement content these days, just to try to
okay,
build
all right,
myself with the habits. And also, the quote goes something
fair enough.
like, "It's better to seek forgiveness rather than seeking permission. Like it's better to seek
That's that is
forgiveness
seeking
than to
permission.
ask
Yes, I've
permission."
read this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I've
it's
read this.
just
I've read
whatever
this.
you
Yes,
want, just do it. If you if you
just do
turn
it.
out wrong, yeah, you seek forgiveness, no worries. But yeah, don't ask for permission before you do it, because definitely there will be people who will criticize you and try to pull you down. So it's always better to just do whatever you want, and then
Absolutely,
fix things along the way.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would actually go as far as saying that I was kind of lucky that I didn't have any career counseling guides in ISTL. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something I'm a huge fan of. Career counseling is required once you've done something major, once you've finished your bachelor's. This is when you start thinking about what is it that I want to specialize. You need a graduation, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you graduate in. It doesn't matter whether you're a math major or you're a science major or you're an engineer. Yes, you may require a bit of a counseling in deciding whether you'd like to take an STEM subject or not,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're more suited for arts, commerce, or science. That is something which people need to counsel in. But as far as picking up the stream is concerned, as far as picking up the interest is concerned, I really doubt if your high school teachers can help you as much because you would realize a few
Mm-hmm.
years from now that nothing that you did in high school is probably nothing that you studied in high school is probably going to be of much use.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
a few things here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
anybody who has judged your performance in high school cannot really um, be in a position to push you towards a particular stream.
Yeah.
I would actually go as far as saying this. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
counseling should be limited to students who are about to make a choice between commerce, arts, or science. But once you're in an STEM line, once you're in that applied science and engineering faculty, uh, you will understand yourself. You would start getting the hang of the modules yourself. You will pick your own interests. It's way too early for you to settle down with a stream, be it
Yeah.
computer science or electronics and communication or whatever.
True that, true that. Actually, it's a really important point that you brought up, and yeah, I feel that.
Right.
I mean, like even I think about it in a way that it's like, I mean, a student has just completed his basic schooling. Okay, high school. I mean, I consider it as basic schooling itself, right? and it's like
Exactly.
he doesn't even know what he wants to do. So let him explore a bit
True.
before
True.
you kind of try and push him into a certain stream. Be like, oh, that go to that stream. There's money there. Go there. Just like that.
Exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
it sucks. Yeah, it's
I
like
mean,
it's not
yeah, I mean,
something that
I
anybody should
wouldn't.
do.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that the high school education in the West is any sort of a benchmark for this,
Mm.
but I do feel that the flexibility with which students, with I would call them children, the flexibility with which high school children select their modules, the flexibility with which
Mm.
they can decide whether to appear for an exam in the 11th grade or postpone it until the next 12th grade, and the luxury of having a gap year after high school where they can travel and explore their interests.
Mm.
Um, it's obviously not available
Indian
to people
students.
like us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not blaming the condition for it. I'm not. I really am not, because I'm not going to be I'm not going to go all offensive and say that, what, every student in India should take a gap year. Maybe the
Mm.
financial situation is not as such. We just don't have that luxury. But I'm just saying that um, we have commercialized everything to the extent where you have made the choice of a stream a question of life and death to a lot of students, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's it's not very pleasant. It's actually terrible to look at.
True, true, definitely. Exactly. It's yeah, that's what it's all about, It's about you take the stream or don't study at all. It's something like, like a do or die. I mean, they just try to make everything seem like it's binary. Either you get this stream or your life is
Exactly.
doomed. Your life is doomed.
No,
Like nobody
you
considers
would be
other streams,
you would
yeah.
be surprised. You would be very surprised. I mean, the kind of students I met at the University of Manchester, there were students who were 2 or probably 3 years my senior. And when I just asked them casually, I mean, is it that you started late or what's up? He said, no, I finished my high school and then I was an apprentice in a sugar mill. And then, somebody said that I was an apprentice in a software company. I wanted to
Okay.
try this field out and get a feel of it and see whether I am really cut out for this before
Mm.
deciding on what is it that I want to pursue as a majors.
Mm.
That person that person has his reasons of selecting mechanical engineering other than what his parents advised him to, because he
Yeah.
actually knows what's out there. He actually knows what he's about to do after he
Yeah.
graduates. He knows what kind of jobs and what kind of salary structure is waiting for him. And if he's good with it, he would continue. If he's not, then he would just try something else.
True, true.
I mean, this was something which really, really resonated with me. I mean, everyone should get a hang of some sort of engineering related work before they decide to take that leap into that cutthroat engineering entrance competition or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
big circus that we have in India. You have no idea, my friend. You have no idea what's coming up for you. You have
Yeah.
no idea what kind of job you'll be getting. I mean, it's really, really dependent on the country that you live in, the kind of an education that you get, and you have no idea how you will be able to face that. So it's important to do that before you make a choice.
True, true, true. Actually, I felt
Yeah.
whatever you're saying, right? I felt the same way when I came to college in the first sem itself, when I,
Right.
just got to explore, oh, there's something called as production engineering. The
There you
hell? I
go.
didn't know
There
anything
you
about
go.
that. I had only heard something like electrical, electronics, then mechanical,
Exactly.
computer science. That's
I
all.
mean,
Nothing apart from
don't be
that.
surprised.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't be surprised that when you go to the University of Toronto, you will come across students who have done their bachelors in statistics, in
Yeah.
maths,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
they wouldn't be engineers. They wouldn't necessarily be engineers or computer scientists.
Mm.
They would have done something perhaps in language, but they're just there because they'd like to use those applied computing skills, those deep learning or NLP skills in,
Mm.
I don't know, like a library or something, just to be able to sort out the different books by their topic.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what topic
exactly.
modeling is. That's what applied
Actually, you
computing
got
is.
it very right. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you the program that I got it from. So, I mean, I got the admit
Right.
from. It admits students from streams like arts, humanities, statistics,
There you go.
computer
There you
science,
go.
electronics, mechanical, everybody. Like it's extremely diverse. It's about
There you
computer
go.
science. It's not computer science. Okay, it's like applying the skills in computing to anything that you
Right.
have already learned. So, for example, I have a
Absolutely.
background of robotics and deep learning. I mean, more
Hmm.
towards robotics side. Okay, so
Hmm.
I can how I can
Right.
use the computing skills in that. There'll be some other person maybe
Hmm.
in biology in that, and he needs computing to do some kind of a med tech. So something like that. So yeah, like
Exactly.
I mean, you got it
Exactly.
extremely correct. So yeah, that's what I just wanted to put out. So Danish, I really appreciate you taking the time for this podcast session. I found this discussion really informative and inspiring, and I hope the viewers feel the same way. If you did, you might want to check out my previous podcast, which was all about studying in the US after 12th. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.